Hello and welcome. If you're just joining us, we're just opening the window just a few minutes early. We'll get started with the presentation for Junior Senior Parent Nights here in just a few minutes. I'll be able to share my screen here in a few minutes, and we're going to go ahead and get started with the Junior Parent Night and inform you about the upcoming year and into the senior year. If you're just joining us, I'm Barb Lehman. I'm one of the counselors at the park, and we're going to start the presentation here in just a few minutes. We wanted to get you into the presentation so you have access. We'd encourage you to get a pen and paper, something to write some notes and take some notes as we continue along through the presentation, and we'll be answering some questions at the end of the presentation tonight. Hello, if you have just joined us, we're going to get started with our presentation tonight here in just a few minutes. But if you want to get a pen and paper out so that you're ready to follow along, and we will be answering questions at the end of the presentation, but you'll be able to put those in the chat even as we move along. Hi, if you are just joining us, we're about ready to get started with a Junior Parent Night. If you want to get a piece of paper and pen out, just something to write down, or have your laptop or your iPad ready to take some notes, that'd be great, and I think very helpful for you. We will also have opportunity for you to answer some or put some questions in the chat. We'll be answering questions at the end of the presentation tonight. And we'll get started here in just a couple of minutes. So welcome. Hello, if you are just joining us, we're about ready to get started with the Junior Student Parent Night. If you want to get something to write down or take some notes, an iPad or a laptop, you might want to have that with you, and we'll get started here in just a minute. So you've got just about a minute to get comfortable, find a spot where you're going to be able to follow along and get focused on what we're about to talk about tonight. Some great information to get excited about the future for your student. So welcome. This is the formal welcome, and we'll get started. I am Barb Lehman. I'm one of the park counselors. I am joined tonight by Felicia Starks and Mark Housen, who are also park counselors. We want to welcome you to the Junior Student Parent Night. We hope that this information is really helpful and will guide you through starting today and moving through the point of graduation and the celebration with your family. So let's get started with the class of 2024. We're going to review together. Let me move, there we go. We're going to review the timeline from the junior to the senior year. We're going to provide tips tonight and resources for your student and for you to use while exploring post-secondary plans. We want to make sure that there's some post-secondary options are a discussion as a family and discuss that. And it's an ongoing discussion that we want you to start and continue through that point where that job comes about. We also want to supply you with an overview of the college application process, because that comes pretty quickly as the senior year gets started. And we want to help make sure that you learn the process for requesting transcripts through Parchment. Parchment is our online service that allows our students to send their transcripts to colleges, scholarships, and additional endeavors. So with that, let's begin with the junior year timeline and what should you be focusing on? Now, let me start by saying that in an email that you all received recently, the letter that we shared had a lot of links to that. This presentation was part of that. So you do have access to the slides, and this recording will also be available on our Canvas pages on the webpage, and also will be shared on the district's YouTube channel as in the archives for you to refer back to when you need it or when you want to go back and review. But again, there's a lot of information in that letter that was shared out and links, and we'll go over some of that yet tonight. So how do we start and where do we begin? So the first thing is we started with course selection. So your students this last week just finished entering their course selections. They were choosing classes to meet their graduation requirements, to make sure that they had what they needed, but we were also encouraging them to choose classes leading towards a post-secondary plan, exploring what those interests were and so forth. Let me go back. Sorry, I'm keeping getting a message that I'm muted or unmuted. So course selection was last week. Students chose their classes for their post-secondary plans in their senior year schedule. We're going to start meeting with the kids on Monday, junior conferences. We sent out a letter last week and with information that included when their junior conferences, the date and time of that. That schedule is also available on our counseling Canvas pages. So students should check that to make sure they know when they're to attend their appointment. During that meeting, what we're going to be looking at is first that senior schedule. What did they choose for their classes? Making sure that it met their audit that we shared on MyStar documents, and also making sure that it's leading them towards a post-secondary plan of their choosing or where they see themselves going in the future. We want to make sure that that schedule is meeting those needs, not only just their plans for graduation, but also those post-secondary plans. So that'll be a discussion we'll be having during their junior conferences. Again, students should check their school email and then counseling Canvas page to get information. And then we're also going to, in that meeting that we meet with the kids next week, we're going to talk about a plan not only for senior year, but going on throughout graduation and beyond. What does that plan look like? How are they going to meet those needs? How are they going to meet the goals that they have in front of them? And if they're not really sure what their plans are or where they're going to go, we're going to give them some tools and ways to start exploring those opportunities. And I'm going to share a number of links here tonight that will give you a lot of different resources. And as I said, these slides have been shared and will be shared and available for you to go back and click through to be able to have access to the links. One thing we'll talk about too is about SAT and ACT. Now, this is a really confusing part where at one time it was pretty simple. You took the test, your score, and then you knew if that university was an appropriate score, an approvable score, a great score. Now it has a lot of schools considering themselves test optional. But we do want to caution you on that. It is an important thing to consider that, yes, you do take the SAT as a junior in high school. We're going to be taking that right after our spring break. And at that time, that score is a score that you could share with a university. Now, you may choose not to share it freely, but understand that if you choose to wait to share it later, you will have to pay a fee. What you might want to start looking at now is what colleges and universities you're considering, and are they score optional? If you exceed their expectations, then your score would be a supportive one. You want to see if that score meets their needs, and that would also help. That should kind of give you some help in getting through it all. Just knowing if you should share your scores and where you stand. So you want to look at your scores to be something that would be supportive in going to that university. So example, if I was going to a school and they were looking for a 1200 and I got a 1300, perfect, send my scores. If I got a 1,000 score, a 100 score, a 950, I might want to consider the possibility of retaking that test or waiting to see if I can get a higher score, or focus on grades and classes and trying to increase my chances in that direction. That's a conversation I'd encourage you to have with your counselor. We continue to have those this fall with our seniors, and we want to continue those with our current juniors going forward. But again, keep in mind, any test that you take, if you don't send it when you take the exam, you will need to pay for it to be sent at a later time. And that is something that you do directly through your College Board or ACT account. The next is the letters of recommendation. So when we meet with students and we talk about where they see themselves going in the future, we'll talk about whether they're going to need a letter of recommendation. Majority of universities do not require or need a letter of recommendation. Scholarships are a different part. So let's focus on the college application first. If you want to and expect yourself to be applying to a high-level university, where you're going to use what's called the common application, an application that's common to many universities, there is a section that is a teacher recommendation. If you're going to need a teacher recommendation, we ask that you reach out to your teachers that you're considering, send them a resume, meet with them, talk to them in person, and share with them all the things you've done outside of the school, out of their classroom and out of their school day, so that they can really give you a really strong and wealthy recommendation letter of knowing more about you than just what they saw in class. What they saw in class is very impactful and is very useful. So teacher recommendations are very important for those students that are going to need those. We do always ask that you reach out now. As we move into the junior conference, we'll remind you of this. But after spring break, you should make contact with at least 2 teachers. And we'd encourage you to focus on an academic teacher, or at least a teacher that is kind of in the direction of your career pathway. A core academic teacher is important, and then one that's going in your career pathway. You're going to, again, give them a handwritten or a typed up resume or share a document with them that is telling more about you so they can make a really strong recommendation letter. They'll tell you how they do their recommendations. They may say, yes, I'll add you to my list and I'll have it available in the fall, or they may work on it ahead of time. Either way, make sure that you follow up with a thank you, whether it's an email or a handwritten card. It is something outside of their school day, and it's something that you need and is really important, and they want to share great things about you. Letters of recommendation for a scholarship are different. Those are ones where you could use the same ones from the colleges or the ones that you're using for college applications, but you may also want to consider if you have a job and have been working for or with the same manager for a long time, they'd be a great person to write a recommendation letter that shows responsibility and work ethic, and that might be great for that scholarship you're applying for. There also might be somebody in your family, not somebody you're related to, but as you call family. So one example I always give is, does your dad or mom have a college roommate that they are a lifelong friend that they've known and they've seen you grow up since very young? They might be a really good person to write about who you are, your character, and what kind of person you are going forward. That would be a great letter of recommendation for a scholarship, depending on what the need is, not a college application though. So understand sometimes the letters of recommendation are appropriate for different situations. And the last on this side is the estimating financial need. We know that financial need is a really big issue for a lot of families, a lot of us across the board. So there are a lot of different times that we look at opportunities for kids to earn money to help them go to college. So some of our students are considering the possibility of community colleges, which does save money. And many of those community colleges also have specific scholarships. Every university has scholarships. Some of them are automatically determined once you apply based on a GPA or specific standards they're looking for. Those scholarships are available on their websites. So as you look, for example, at Eastern Michigan University, you'll look at the scholarships that are given to new admissions or possibly transfer students. We have 3 links on here that are really helpful. There is going to be a night, and I'll talk about the career night or a college night here in a few minutes, but it will also have a financial aid workshop at that time. But you'll see the financial student aid link that is here. Big Future is a site that's controlled by College Board, but really has some great avenues and forms that you can use and calculators into determining how much money you might get from federal financial aid, and then how to apply for aid. That's an important step and something that you can begin working on and create a PIN as soon as possible. So we've talked about test scores, that you want to look into the university to know if it's appropriate for you to send your scores, and also comparing your scores to that university to know if you should retake the test. Again, the current juniors are going to be taking it in April, but you do have the opportunity to take that later on, could be June or even in the fall of next year. Next, right after spring break, let's start talking to your teachers about letters of recommendation, giving them a resume, sharing a resume document with them so they know what you do outside of their classroom. and then make sure that you follow up with a great thank you. And as we all need a little bit of extra money to help us pay for our schooling or our plans in the future, we want to make sure that you definitely jump on that and get that taken care of. So with that, let's talk about a summer timeline. So summer is an important time prior to the senior year. One thing that we definitely want you to do as much as possible is to visit colleges, meet with military recruiters, and check out trade programs. This summer is a really key time for you to make that connection, not only by talking and connecting with emails and checking out websites, but truly to meet with people in person. Have that one-on-one conversation with a military recruiter. Find out what the opportunities are. When is the enlistment dates? When would you actually be able to sign up and continue and begin your program of basic training? How many trade programs are you looking at? Is there a possibility that actually it's connected with a community college? So it might mean going to a community college and doing a visit on campus to learn a little bit more of what programs they have and updates they're making to their programs and trade programs. And then visiting colleges is a key to walk on the campus. Many students will have the opportunity to apply to universities and find out all 3 of them they apply to have accepted them. All of them are great programs. All of them have great opportunities for them. All have great academic programs and athletic programs and interests that you have. But when you walk on the campus, you'll truly learn and understand what it feels like. And that's when you really want to look and feel to know, is this really the right place? You're about to spend the next 4 years on that campus, and you want to feel comfortable with it. You want to feel like this is a place that you really could call home for that time period. So make sure that you have that opportunity this summer. Some of you actually could be considering that this spring break if you're not going someplace, or you've already planned to go someplace and actually visit colleges en route of that. So anytime you can have those visits is really important. You will have some time in the fall to do so, because you really will not make a decision about your college until May, possibly sooner, but it does give you a lot of time. But this coming summer would be one I really want to focus on. We want to make sure that throughout this summer that you're also continuing that research. When you take the SAT or when you took the PSAT in past years, you ended up putting yourself on a list where you started getting all these materials from colleges and universities, and you get emails from colleges and universities. Do your research over the summer. Check those emails out instead of just trashing them or setting them aside. Pull those back out of that file folder. Let's look over those and see what opportunities there are. Make some comparisons. I encourage kids to make pro and con sheets to help them kind of decide where is that right place for them. It's also a really good opportunity for you to get a job or an internship and get a different exposure or a different experience. Your classwork that you're doing every day is outstanding, and it really gives you that experience. But adding a job or an internship really elevates that educational learning and also shows the university this is really something you're seeing yourself going into. For somebody who might spend some time in a hospital or an engineering firm or in a working with somebody that does HVAC, having those experiences, and then for that college to really kind of bet on you that you're going to make it through, having those experiences would give me more confidence that, yeah, you really know that what it means to be an engineer or what it means to work on HVAC and have those experiences. So those are really a good opportunity this coming summer, but also consider those even for the summer following your senior year. Now, we're going to have a college essay workshop. Again, not all college applications require an essay. So it's not necessarily for everyone, but I wouldn't necessarily hesitate. If you're considering going to a 4-year university, you may want to attend the essay workshop. We're going to hold it on June 5th, which actually I believe is Monday. So I apologize if that's incorrect. We'll double check that for sure. But that we're going to offer it first hour, third hour, and fifth hour. It is with myself, Jeff Blakesley. Mr. Blakesley is an English teacher at Canton, along with Mr. Forsland, who is a great advocate and investigator and research about colleges and the application process and how the essays support and attribute to a great acceptance. But we'll be doing that essay workshop. The essays are available for Common App currently, so they are something that you can begin to work on and have many drafts. You do want to make sure that you are continuing to draft your essays and work on those throughout the summertime, and make sure that you're having others read them. And we'll go over a lot of those tips and recommendations through that essay seminar. Now, if when I talked about that recommendation letter previously to your teacher, if you don't have a resume, let's get a resume going. There's a lot of sites on Google and everywhere you can search on how to write a resume. And you want to have something that starts to establish what are the things that you've been involved in, not only in class and in projects and your successes, but what else have you done outside of school? What you might find in doing a resume is you're like, wow, I thought I'd been really busy through high school so far, but you know what? Maybe I need to do something else to get some experience. So maybe that encourages you to get a job, join a club, an activity, so that gets yourself kind of more involved in a different endeavor. So that's something important. You can use that resume for a number of different reasons, and you'll continue to use that resume. You'll add to it, delete, change it, and update it as you continue through your life and as you continue through college and finding your first jobs. And the last is that employment. You know, if you don't find a job, I do encourage you to have some volunteer time. That's a really important thing. We know that intrinsically that is something good for our own mental health, and we encourage our students to support themselves through that time during the summer where they take a break. But the opportunity to give back and be able to help someone else really does a lot for our own self-esteem and our own mental health. So I encourage you to have the opportunity to volunteer. So now that your springtime is pretty full, or your summer is pretty full, let's continue on to get you some resources and how to explore and find this process and where you see yourself in the future. We're going to first start talking about colleges. If you're heading to a 4-year or 2-year university, we'll talk about the skilled trades and the military programs. And then again, that's scholarships and financial aid. So more specifically, here are those links as I spoke about. So again, the slide presentation's available for you to go back and use these links and click through them and use them to your advantage to learn more. So College Board Big Future, we've talked about this a few times. We talked about it when you guys were 10th graders, and we did actually a meeting together during testing time in April of last year. But we talked about Big Future was a reference that we made because it's through College Board. And what's nice about it, it really gives you that chance to go and do a college search. The college search is great because you can choose, do you want to just search by degrees? So do you see yourself doing something in a degree in psychology or mathematics? And then you can take that search down to choose the Midwest. You can choose Michigan. You can choose Alabama. You could choose Arizona. You could choose any area that you want, but then you can also clarify what kind of school, what kind of activities, and what kind of programs you want. So you can narrow down a search that really can give you really some quick direction where you might be sitting today going, I really have no idea where I want to go, but I know I want to go to college. So let's start by doing Big Future, do a college search, and start putting in some criteria and filter out to see what's available. What I like about Big Future is that once you get the universities or the lists, those show up on your screen, and those are direct links to those universities' pages. So it gets you right to the university that's telling you, hey, Lawrence Tech University right here, not too far from us, is a great university. I click on it, it takes me to their website, talks about their applications, their admissions, and all their programs. So Big Future is a great one to get started on if you haven't checked it out already. The 107 is really helpful for those students that are looking to do an HBCU school because it really gives you a lot of their academic programs specifically. There is a Common Black application that we encourage you for the HBCU schools because it directly goes to those universities and supports the endeavors that they are looking for. So their application is slightly different, but again, it meets the need. If you're interested in an HBCU, we really want you to get that application started as well. The other application similar to is the Common application. And this is the one that will go to common schools throughout the United States. When we first started the Common app, where in which the University of Michigan joined on, we also saw a lot of kids applying to Boston College. Now, parents, just be aware, every time they click a university, it does mean there's going to be a fee attached. So you do want to have that conversation about how many universities are they going to be applying to. But in the Common app and in the Common Black app, anytime that you're going to do that, you do want to make sure that you're kind of thinking and being really kind of understanding of how many schools you're going to be applying to, because there will be a fee attached to those. But the nice thing about those applications is you're going to be able to do it and finish it and send it, just one application. And we'll go over that just more specifically in just a moment. The Campus Pride Index will give you some friendly LGBTQ friendly campuses, which is really helpful for a number of our students to get a feel of what it's going to be that campus is going to be like, and if you're going to feel comfortable. And as I said, you want to feel at home. There's also a list that will get you to College Majors 101. and then also My College Options. So there's a lot of sites that really give you that information that gets you connected and making these helpful decisions. Sorry about my dog in the back. We want to make sure that you spend that time. As I said, this summer and the springtime is a great time for you to do the college exploration and make sure that you're looking for those things. So now onto the skilled trades and military. Let me first start by talking about the skilled trades programs. When we talk about them, there are a number of programs around the area that will really help in the skilled trades. But no, a lot of times what we're seeing is the skilled trades are going back into the community colleges. So one thing that we know as an example would be welding. Welding is a phenomenal trade program, and a facility has been redone at Schoolcraft College, and there's also one at Washtenaw. Both of those community colleges have a great welding program, so you don't want to hesitate from saying you want to do a trade school, but you don't want to do a college. Make sure that you're investigating what those options are, because there definitely are some differences and pros and cons with each one of those programs. There are a number in this area. If you are not connected and don't have the connections to those, I'd encourage you to reach out to our Career Center. Mrs. Stice, who runs the Career Center, has connection to a number of different people in the trades programs and can actually get you connected with those people. We are trying to get more of them to come in for visits, so keep your eyes on the Career Center as an opportunity to visit and talk with them that are right in the program. Know that one thing that we see in the trades programs is you could be looking for a certificate program that might be 18 months, or you might be looking for something in a community college where it's an associate's degree. One example would be a vet tech. There are programs that you could do a veterinarian tech, where in which you could go to community college and do 2 years, or you can actually do some trade programs or trade schools where it's 18 months because it continues through the summer. So there definitely are some differences between the two. So you want to do your investigation and look through that. The other one is the possibility of the military. We do want to encourage you to have that conversation with your parents, talk about it, make sure that you're making the right decision and steps for yourself. It definitely leads you to some great opportunities, financial support if you ever decided to leave the military and go on to college. But within the military, what I've learned more than anything is the training and the experience that you can get is just by far none that you'd ever see anywhere else. It definitely means a commitment to yourself through basic training and the years of service. So you do want to make sure that when talking with your recruiter, you really have some understanding of what is expected for you in the future. But it is also a great opportunity for you to travel throughout the world. So again, this is another post-secondary plan we want you to consider and see if those are the right fit for you. The last one is that scholarships and financial aid. One thing I want to caution you before you even start this process and looking into this, don't ever pay for a scholarship. You don't want to pay a company to just simply Google scholarships. But what you want to do is you certainly want to start talking that you've got a student that currently is a junior and will be graduating next year and is going to be looking for scholarships. You want to make sure that you check your own place of employment, share with friends, with neighbors, because you never know where scholarships are out there and what businesses have scholarships, but we don't always have the access to those that are all out there. What we do have is all the local scholarships. On our PCEP website, there's a link that's on the side page under guidance and counseling, right to our scholarship page. You are welcome to check that out now. That scholarship page really has a wealth of information, but it is for the current seniors to apply. Now, every so often, there are some scholarships that come up for underclassmen. So it is something that you might want to be aware of, but you do want to sign up and be signed up for the email notifications. The information that is shared on the website is identical, shared in all 3 buildings in the counseling offices. We post that information, and that's where you can go if you have questions. The counseling office secretaries are the ones that post the information and make sure that you have the necessary materials, and they're the ones that post it on the webpage and make sure that you have the links necessary. So there are definitely a number of different scholarships. I would tell you that the scholarships for seniors will start around October. Some show up in September, but most of them are usually up in October and then through the year until around May, and that's when they start to taper off. So those are the local scholarships, Kiwanis, Rotary, a lot of different community organizations, elementary schools. A number of our elementary schools have scholarships. One thing that I found that kids that are the most successful with it is, one, they've started with that resume and reached out to people for recommendation letters. They have the recommendation from a teacher. They have a recommendation from a personal friend, they have a recommendation from their manager at work. So they have it ready to go and send and any scholarship that may need it. Now, I know many times teachers may write your recommendation letter in the eye of or the expectation of a college reading it or another program reading it. I'm sure many times they're also very apt to go back and tweak it or change it to meet your scholarship needs. So don't hesitate to ask them again if they just tweak that little piece of information and send you a new copy. But again, those scholarships, where I see the kids that are most successful are the ones that use the time off that we have during the school year as a scholarship day. So example would be in early October, we have a day off usually where your teachers are in professional development and you are home, hopefully doing homework, but it's a great day for a senior to be working on a scholarship, getting that information, working on the essay, rewriting it, checking over the edits that maybe your teacher made or your counselor made. So those are really important for you to share. So that's where I see the most success for kids. And understand $100 to $500 or more is definitely, every little bit will help. And every scholarship works differently. Some of them will hand you the money in a check. Some of them will send it directly to your university. So you do want to make sure that you're reading through that scholarship and what the expectations are. Now, the additional sites that are on here, as I said before, are ones for you to go back and check. Federal student aid is definitely an important one for many families. And you'd be surprised at how many of you can actually do that and be part of that. You do want to make sure that you even investigate that possibility, because one thing that might occur is in applying for federal student aid, you may realize that actually you may not qualify for federal aid, but you do qualify for a grant, for a Pell Grant, or you may also apply for a student loan at a reduced rate than what you're expecting. Big futures on here again, and how to apply for student aid or apply for aid. So again, please check back, come back to the slides, check on the links and use those as your resources. And then reach out to your counselor if you have more questions. The career exploration is one that we've been talking about with the students. Primarily, we started with you guys as sophomores, and we're about to do the same thing with our sophomores again and reinforce colleges and careers. But here again are some number of great websites. What I really like a lot about them is Zello is one, and My Next Move are two that we have used, where in which you can do a career interest inventory. It is really helpful for you to do a career interest inventory, not once, not twice, but maybe even 3 times. As you take classes through high school, you'll start to change your opinion and your likes and your dislikes, just as where you may change your perception of where you see yourself in the future. It is just as important for you to learn about what you like as much as what you don't like. Do you want to work with people, or do you want to work outside? Do you want to work on a computer, or do you want to be traveling? Those are important questions for you to answer. And one thing I want to caution you on is when you do that interest inventory, be open-minded of what's about to come back. When they tell you, here are the top 10 careers we'd recommend for you, keep in mind that you may look at number 2 and go, oh, no way, that's nothing I ever thought myself doing. But realize that there's something in that job that actually is something that you do like to do. So maybe it does need some further investigation. What I like about some of these sites, they'll also give you the connection right to those career fields and kind of link you here from there to there, and you'll continue to learn more. So definitely spend some time. This summer would be a great time, a rainy day where you can't really go anywhere and you're home. Give yourself the opportunity to do really some exploration. Find out what your likes and dislikes are. And if anything, and you're telling me now, you know what you're going to be when you grow up, do the interest inventory and let's make sure that you really are sure. And it will reinforce that positivity and you'll know you're headed in the right direction. The last one on here is the PCP Career Center. And I do want to make sure I make note of that. Mrs. Stice has done a phenomenal job in the opportunities. And there's continually information that is shared throughout the year, newsletters that are sent out, updates that are sent out. So I do encourage you to take advantage of the opportunity. There is only one career center. It's actually housed at Canton, but Mrs. Stice facilitates and supports students at all 3 buildings. So I encourage you to reach out and get some information from there. So now we've gone from a junior year. We've done a junior conference with our counselors in the next 2 weeks. We've asked for recommendation letters. We've started those scholarship or investigating some of those and walking on campuses to learn more about where we see ourselves in the future. But now we're ready to start that senior year, but we're just going to take a glance. So what I've why we're going to just take a glance is because the first thing we start off is with senior parent night. That is held at 5 p.m. prior to open house. Now, we've done it two ways. We've held it in the Salem Auditorium for all three buildings. We encourage you to be part of it. We've also held it in our own buildings. So make sure that you're watching the announcements and the information about that. I'm sure that you'll easily be told, and we'll share that information out numerous times. So we want to make sure that you're there to get the reminders and the updates of where we're headed. As we start that senior parent night, we're going to do the reminders of when we're meeting with our seniors. So we're going to meet with our seniors in small groups or medium-sized groups about the second week of September. They are held, I believe they were held on Wednesday this last fall. So we'll probably do the same thing to avoid the advisory time. But we want to meet with our seniors and make sure that they know and have an opportunity to look at their transcript, to know what it looks like, make sure it's up to date, and get them, again, reminding about the college application process, the next steps in a trade or military program, and how to go about getting their transcripts going on to the next step. In the fall, students are going to be working on their college applications, make sure they're finalizing their post-secondary plans, and making sure that they're making those meetings. And again, giving the opportunity, maybe a second visit onto campus to know, or meeting second time with a trades program to kind of figure out which one is the best fit for them. And as we go through that year, applying for scholarships and financial aid is also a key factor. Trade and military and college visits are visiting our campus from September through October and beyond. So that's one that you're going to want to link to our Career Center page. So once we start the senior year, we're going to start first with the open house, the senior parent night just before it. We're going to follow that with meeting with our seniors to make sure that they're ready and remind them of the steps that they need to be taking. Remind them to do that college application process. That's where their energy should be going and focus should be on. And then applying for scholarships. There are local, state, and university, and understanding that the local scholarships are the ones that are least competitive, going to university and even national scholarships. We certainly don't want to ever hesitate for you applying to a national scholarship, but know that it may take some more steps. One thing that's really important, if at any time you ever need your counselor as an assistant on that or to help with that process, we want to make sure that you reach out to us well before the deadline. We want to make sure that if we need to write a recommendation or we have to fill out and collect information for you to be successful and apply, we want to make sure that we have that time to do the best that we possibly can for you. Oh. Sorry about that. I just lost my screen. So we want to make sure that you're also kind of going through the steps. I have exited my full screen. I don't know where he went. Let me just join back into my presentation. Sorry about that. I clicked on the wrong button. Habit, let's see. There we go. There it is. It's not, let me pull back up. Okay, let me stop sharing for just a moment so I can pull that up. I know that some people are adding into the chat and we really appreciate you doing so. We are keeping a list of what the schools are that we're looking at to make sure that those are possibilities and to make sure that we can answer your questions. We'll be doing those at the very end of the presentation tonight. We'll also make sure that we're sharing some of that information out. And I think I'm back on here. So let me get it back so I can share my screen. Sorry about that. I apologize for that hiccup with us doing that. Let's see if that pulls us back. All right, I'm going to jump through here and get us to where we had left off, where we were just finishing up that senior year. And now a key factor of where we're going to is now going to be talking about how you stay connected. One of the most important things that we want to make sure our students are doing, as you have the opportunity as well, is please make sure that you're checking your school email. It is the direct link that we have to be able to share communication with you and send you information. But you'll also know that we have a counseling canvas page for all three counseling offices, Salem, Canton, and Plymouth. The links are here for our students to connect to those. Parents are and can be can preview those, but students are able to and should be already part of those pages and have access to all the materials. But there's also an important access is to the class page of 2024. It is a page that is available on the school's website, and everyone has access to that. We make sure and do our best to make sure that information is shared on the Counseling Canvas page is also available on the web page. So we want to make sure that you're staying connected not only now and continuing through graduation and even beyond. We also want to make sure that, again, as I reminded you before, on the school's website, under the guidance and counseling on the left-hand side is the scholarship page, and also the connection to the college and military trade school visits. That's the list that Mrs. Stiles works on through the Career Center. It begins in the fall. Now, there are still visits that are occurring as this year is continuing, and I encourage students to be part of that. It is not solely just for seniors. So as a junior this year, it might be a great opportunity that if a recruiter is coming in for a visit, if a college is returning back for a spring visit, you definitely want to be part of that opportunity and meet with that advisor. Many times the person that comes here for that program is the one that will be looking at your application in the future. So the connection you can make and the direct questions you can ask are really a valuable opportunity. Not everybody has the opportunity to sit one-on-one or in a small group with the advisor that really is going to make a decision if you're going to be accepted into their program. So I encourage you to check that out and stay connected with that list. So now let's begin the college application process. Now I will tell you, we know that many students, this is not the direct route that they might be headed. Currently, we have about 94% of our students do go to a 2 or 4-year university. So we want to make sure you have this application process down. I will tell you there's 2 kinds of applications. I've mentioned the Common App application, but there's also what's called a straight school application. An example would be Eastern Michigan University. If you go to Eastern Michigan University's site, you can apply their application and submit it on their website. You can also go to a school and do the Common Application. The University of Michigan accepts the Common Application. They do not have a straight school application. So on their site, you would get to Common App and complete the application. And as I said before, the Common Application is one that you fill out one application, some alternating with regards to what is required for the essays, but you'll fill out one application, submit it to all the schools you've chosen. So what happens is on August 1st, the applications become available. The straight school applications come online to their school's websites, and the Common Application window opens. You do not want to start a Common Application now. Can you? Yes. But what happens is it has to be merged with a future application because that one has not opened. What you're looking at now is an application for next year's fall freshman in college. So you do not want to do that application. You want to wait until August 1st, create your application. And the first step that we would recommend you do is put in some colleges, go to recommenders, and put in your teachers' names and emails and your counselor's name and email. That's the notification to us that you've started the process and we should be starting our process. So that's the first step in doing the Common Application. You apply online, August 1st, the window opens. And if it's the Common Application, you will be doing it where you'll send the recommender to your teachers and to your counselors. We'll again remind the students about this at the parent open house, the senior parent night, and again when we meet with the seniors. The second step is to request your transcript via Parchment. Parchment is the process that we use to send our transcripts online to colleges, universities, scholarships, and direct emails to whether it's an athletic director or different programs. Those are going to be available mid-September your senior year. Students received an email with their Parchment codes where they are expected to create a Parchment account now before their junior conference. We want to make sure that they've gone through that process. Using the code that we've sent you via email will definitely make the process a little quicker. And we want to make sure that you have that account ready to start in the fall. What you'll see currently is the junior transcript, but know that we will upload the senior transcript in the fall and make sure that that's available for you. And again, it is not available until mid-September. Do not panic if your university or college is telling you it must be sooner. They have a date, but know where colleges or high schools are. And we've never had, and we continue to not have a problem with that date. Why we don't do them until mid-September is they have to be updated. We have students that enroll, disenroll, grade changes that need to be done. We want to make sure that your transcript is accurate and telling the full story. Also, your transcript has your work in progress, meaning it's got a list of your senior classes. So we want to make sure that when that transcript goes out, you are in your classes for the year. That's already been established. So we need to leave some time for those changes to occur and make sure that that transcript is accurate. So again, you've received a parchment code. We ask that prior to your junior conference in the next 2 weeks, that you've created that account and gotten online so you know the steps and procedures. The third is that SAT and ACT scores. Now, let me clarify too, you don't have to take both exams. Some students tend to do better on one than the other, but it really is truly a choice that you get to make. Our students will be taking the SAT in April at school. When you register, when you sign up to do that exam through school, you will have the opportunity to send those scores to any college, NCAA, NAIA school that you'd like to for free. If you choose to wait until you know what your results are, you will have to pay a fee. But those scores go directly from the company to the college or university, where parchment goes to either one of two places. So you're going to apply online. August 1st, the application opens. If you're doing a straight school application, you're going to send your transcript directly to that school. Example was Eastern Michigan University. I do Eastern Michigan University's webpage. I do their application. I send my transcript to Eastern. If I do the common application, for example, the University of Michigan, I fill out the application and I request my transcript to go to Common App, not to the school, because that transcript gets linked to your application and then is available to send out to all of your colleges together. So again, that straight school application, transcript goes to that school. Common App, Common HBCU, that application, the transcript goes to the Common application and it gets connected to the counselor portion. So that's why you need to ask or invite your counselor to be a recommender. You need to make sure that they're in that loop because otherwise that transcript has no place to connect to. And then last are those test scores. As I said, the letters of recommendation are not needed. They are needed for common apps. They are not needed necessarily for straight school applications. Our recommended deadline for all college application is October 31st. Your top 3, top 5 schools, we want you to have those applications, whether it's common app or a straight school application. We want you to have not only submitted it, we want to have the transcript there if test scores are going, and making sure that your counselor and your teachers have had plenty of time to do their part. That part is submitted as well by October 31st. What that does, it puts you in the first wave of acceptance. We want to make sure that you've got your name right in there. Given as an example, I had a student a few years ago that actually at Thanksgiving went down to Kentucky and saw the University of Kentucky, fell in love. It was like everything met their list. It was the university for the academics. It was the university for athletics. It was the university for the feel on campus, the dorm rooms, the updates, the new changes, and the programs that they had to offer. And the student came back really concerned, like, okay, but I missed October 31st. It's okay. You can still apply because many universities have what's called rolling admission. They continue to admit students throughout the year. But understand, as the year goes by, it gets less and less or more difficult maybe to be accepted. We don't want you to hesitate from finding a university at Thanksgiving and not applying. Go ahead and apply. But we want to make sure that you've started off already having your top 3 and top 5 initially completed and submitted by October 31st. It is an important deadline to try and search from. But understand, we've given you August 1st to get it started. So many students actually get their stuff done even before school starts. All right. Now, how do you request your transcript? As we said, your code or your passwords and information were already emailed to you via parchment. So you want to watch for those. Those came out already. There's a video here where you can look and watch that video that will show you step-by-step procedure of how to go through the parchment. Once you receive your registration code that you have, you go to parchment.com and set up that account and make sure that you're ready. Don't request your transcript because, again, it's not something you need right now. Now, if you apply for a scholarship in 2 months from now and you do need that transcript, then by all means, use Parchment to send that transcript and follow the directions. Make sure that you know what the expectations are. And as always, our counseling secretaries are the ones that manage our Parchment accounts. They are checking them usually every day, every morning. Our secretaries go on, see which transcripts need to be sent, and get those on their way. We definitely don't want to hold off, so we do stay on top of that. But if you ever have any questions or have any trouble getting connected, reach out to our secretaries or stop by our counseling offices. All right, so now that we've got that, so we've got a few tips for you to continue with. We've talked about financial student aid. We want to make sure that you have those opportunities. And there's also a great parent action plan. Gives you an idea of kind of what those steps are and what things you need to be considering and how to gather your materials. One thing that's really happened that's supportive is the federal aid really connects to your taxes. So it actually can merge your taxes that you'll be submitting and merge it right into financial aid. So the process of applying for federal financial aid can take only maybe about 30 minutes, sometimes a little bit longer and sometimes even a little less. So definitely consider that as a possibility. And make sure you help your kids through this process. We want to make sure that you have some steps and guidance through this, and definitely even having just a conversation. If it's not an experience that your parents have been part of or they're not really knowledgeable of, share what you've learned as a student. Because as you talk it through and you kind of go over some of thoughts and what you're seeing as pros and cons, you'll start to hear yourself and realize, okay, I think I really know where I want to go, because you're having that conversation. Share your ideas and information with your parents, have that dialogue and keep that dialogue open as you make these big decisions in your future. As we said, support, guide, and assist, but please let your students take the lead. They should be doing the college application. They should be creating their Parchment account. We want to make sure that they're the ones self-advocating for themselves and taking this next step to their future and where they see themselves going. And we, as always, will be there to support them along the way as well. One thing I talked about or referenced before with our Career Center, Mrs. Stiles has set up a college and career night and financial aid night. It is on March 14th. It is from 6 to 8 p.m. at Canton High School this year. It is open to our 11th and 12th graders. I encourage you to come out, learn a little bit more, gather some materials, have an opportunity to talk to maybe who that college rep is, or just even open your eyes of all the possibilities that are there. Learn about financial aid, how to get prepared for that, and see what your opportunities might be. So this is really a great opportunity for you to be involved, find out some more information, and get kind of that final list of who your top programs are or top plans are as you head to your future. We are looking for an NCAA NAIA reps to do a presentation. It may come in the fall, but we'll make sure that we get that information out there in the future. There's an Infinite Scholars Fair that'll be coming up. It's usually in October. It's open to all grades. Last year, I believe it was a Zoom opportunity for students. And then Schoolcraft College Night also has and occurs in October. It is held at Schoolcraft College, and it has all the Michigan schools and many other just rare schools that are outside of our state for students to learn and gain some more information. And again, anytime you can get in front of that admissions rep that's going to be looking at your college application, or is that direct link or your connection to that university, is really valuable for you to be informed. So we really want to encourage you to connect with that and have that opportunity. So not only these opportunities, but again, remember that I had stated the college and military and recruiters and trade programs begin visiting our campuses end of September, heavy through October, and then throughout the year. So you want to stay informed with what the Career Center is sharing. March 1st, our students received an email about junior conferences, about the appointment. As I said, it was in your email. The link is telling you where that appointment is and what date and time. Please make sure you attend that. we do want to make sure that we go over your schedule with you, your course requests of what you've chosen. Make sure it connects to the audit that we uploaded to your student documents on MyStar. And also make sure that what you're choosing is actually what that college or university or trade program or military recruiter is going to be looking for. We want to make sure it's fitting all the needs. In that meeting, we'll be able to make changes if necessary, and we'll be going through those with you together. We want to make sure that you've got that parchment code. Check your email, make sure that you've got that, and get that started this weekend. And those junior conferences are going to begin on the 13th. You'll be receiving probably a reminder email. We did ask you in the letter for about junior conferences to do some things prior to our meeting. One of them is a student information sheet. It helps us, and what it's actually creating is kind of a resume to share with your counselor. It's helpful for us to know so we can get that information about what you've been doing in school, but also what those opportunities and what you see yourself doing in the future and do outside of classroom. So those are important steps. So please make sure that you refer back to that letter we shared. And then again, reminder about that college essay seminar. If you are doing a common application, straight school applications really don't need the essay, but you are more than welcome to attend because you still may not know what school you're going to look for in the future. So definitely that information will come out soon about first hour, third hour, and fifth hour. It's held in the presentation room at Canton, but it's an opportunity for us to impart our wisdom about what we know about the essay process and the Common App, and making sure that you're going through that process and sending out the absolute best essay so that you get accepted to every university that you apply to. Okay, so we thank you so much for coming. So let me go through a couple of questions that were requested on the chat. What kind of tests or tools are available in the Career Center to narrow down what career a student might be interested in? The tools as far as what's actually like in the Career Center are not necessarily, there's no more really hand paper tools that are available, but there are resources and links throughout this presentation. ONET, My Next Move, Big Future, those are great opportunities. This morning, the ASVAB test was given to our students. That ASVAB test was an opportunity for our students to actually do an interest inventory through the military. You don't have to be one going into the military, but I know a number of students took that this morning. We hope they'll get great results from it. But any kind of interest inventory you're looking for is where you want to get started. If you need something beyond the links that we have shared with you, we'd encourage you to stop by the Career Center. I know that Mrs. Stiles can also do some research and investigation with you and talk with students about where they're headed, as well as can their counselors. We're happy to sit down with you and do some investigating going forward. Does the school offer any college tours like a HBCU tour? I believe in years there have been some opportunities that hasn't come around in a while, but those are usually ones that actually are organized through organizations in our community, not necessarily directed with our school, because we actually don't do any tours to universities with our school. We don't take buses and attend and go on campuses. But I do know that there are ones in the community, so I encourage you to reach out if you're definitely interested. Reach out to us and we're happy to look. And if we have anything that comes up that we know of in the community, we do share that and make that available for students to be aware of as well. That most likely will not occur until until we get a little closer into the springtime and heading into the fall. Do you have to choose a teacher this year for letter of recommendation, or can you use a previous teacher? Great question. Yeah, you can actually choose a 9th grade English teacher if you had a great connection with them, or if it's maybe even a teacher that you've had twice, but now you're in junior year, you don't have that teacher again, but you still have some contact with them or you connect with them. Absolutely. If you've had a great experience with any teacher throughout high school, I do caution you, I wouldn't want you to go into middle school. While I know you may have had some great teachers, they might be appropriate for a scholarship because it would be more about your character, but your academic rigor and your academic work ethic now in high school would be key for a high school teacher. But know that if you had a good relationship, and more so that you did well in that class, they would be a great person for a recommendation letter. You don't need to, be in constant contact with them even now. But if you had a really good experience in your U.S. history class, you did extremely well in it, you know that you were one that participated and your teacher, praised you for doing so well, When you create that resume, that's the part that helps that teacher where they may not remember everything about you right away. When you share that resume with them, that really will remember or help them to remind them all the experience and what it was like to have you as a student. Know that your teachers are more than happy to write those recommendation letters, but they'll only write so many of them. So you do want to make sure that you get out there and ask. And again, it doesn't have to be this year. It can be somebody from 9th or 10th grade, but again, try to stay with somebody within high school years and use maybe middle school if so needed for a character recommendation for a scholarship. Are SAT scores sent per test, or are all test scores sent at once? You actually can send the whole array of scores, but one thing to know when you send your scores is every college and university will always take your highest score. They are human and understand that if the first time you took the test to the second time, many things happen on a day that you take a test or prior to, that it could change the way your score came. We know not everybody is a robot and is going to do the exact same score. So it definitely is something to know that when you request your scores to be sent, they will always look at your highest score. The other thing to know, there are some schools, not many of the public universities anymore, do what's called a super score, where they look at each section of the test and recombine from 2 or 3 times you took the test, take the highest sections, combine them to get a new total. That's a possibility for some of your private schools, or some of the smaller universities might do that. They might post that on their school's website that they do super score, and that's what it would mean, or that's what the definition of that you're looking for. Does the school counselor help students sign up for the SAT? We will need to take it in the fall and not the school year. We don't help. We're happy to help you do the registration, but it's actually a registration that's online. The online application for SAT is on College Board. That's the company that runs that. And ACT is on actstudent.org is how you'll access that one, or act.org. So you actually go onto their websites themselves and register. You can register usually about July 1st. The window for the fall exams start to open. And I encourage you to go ahead and register at that time. If you know right now that the spring tests are not available for you, either the one in April at school or the one in June, if those are not going to work for you, definitely consider looking or setting a reminder for yourself to check on the sites in mid-July and get registered. There are not a lot of sites in the area, so you do want to try and get a site that is close by. So again, you're not driving really far early in that Saturday morning whenever it's offered. But it is something we're happy to help you do the registration process, but we'll only get you so far because you do need to pay for that online. Does the school are college application fees waived in the month of October? So sometimes we get notification and we share that out absolutely every chance that we possibly can. Some schools do a free application month. They do it in October. They do a free week. Sometimes there is a code that is shared. So that is where you want to make sure that you're staying on those email notifications. We do send that information out and share it with our families and put it on our Canvas page to make sure that that information and the web page, so that we continue to add. Anytime that we find out a university or a college or a program is going to waive the fee waiver at that time, we will share that information with you. But there's no telling, there's no rule that they tend to follow. But yes, October is a big month for colleges and universities to waive application fees, because the same way we want your kids to finish it by October 31st. They also want to get those applications in and get their process going. So that's also important for them. So just keep up to date, and we'll make sure that that information gets out there. Another question was added. Can you explain early decision and how to apply? What is the benefit of early decision? So early decision gives that opportunity for you to get accepted in the first wave of decisions. We want to make sure that's why we pick October 31st, because we want you in that first wave of decisions to be made. We want to make sure that when they're making their first wave of decisions, that's important. You do not need to qualify yourself as an early decision application. Some schools don't have early decision, but they will make decisions early, if that helps. When students apply, many of them universities will start accepting students, as I said, a rolling admission. So they are making those decisions early. There is also that possibility that they will wait for the bulk of their applications. But again, when you get in that bulk, you'll get a decision earlier than having to wait. There are some students that are still waiting for answers from a couple of universities or some of the bigger, more high-level universities that have not made their final decisions. But again, they got in that wave of the early decision to make sure that they were in that system and going forward. But that's why we want to make sure that our students are ready for that benefit. That benefit is to get the applications completed by October 31st and make sure that your information is in. Once your student submits, it's important that they realize the time span of when that occurred. So that's why it's nice when the application becomes available on August 1st, so they have that chance to kind of get started on it even before classes get going. All right, I think I've got, we've covered all the questions. Mr. Hausen, Mrs. Starks, are there any other questions that we have? I'll start sharing here for a minute. All right. Looks like I think we've got all of our questions answered. So understand too, as we end tonight, and we appreciate you being here tonight, all of this information is shared on our class page on their school's website. It's on the Canvas page under the class of 2024, and we will continue to inform and notify our students. The first and foremost is for our students to refer back to that junior letter we sent that has tasks for them to complete prior to their junior conferences, which we begin on Monday. Students will be signing or will be starting to meet with their counselors on Monday. We'll be reviewing again their course selection, making sure it matches to their future plans and graduation. All of the links are on the slides. Those slides, while it may not be something right now you need to be looking at or ready for, just keep in mind that it's a great thing for you to go back and review and look at it in the future as you continue through the summer, whether it's your volunteering or getting a job or just maybe taking a summer class at a community college or doing a special camp program in an area field or an area or field of study that you see yourself in the future. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Have a great night, and we hope to see you all at graduation in 2024. Good night.